Bryce Canyon is a really great park for tree sniffing. There's a lot of ponderosa pines here.
What a weird thing to say.
So I know.
I love it.
Just if you need to look up a picture of the bark before you go, that would be helpful.
Right. It's not fun to smell non-good smelling trees.
This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like birds.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring. I think it's probably time that I tell everyone who's listening that I am not very eloquent in my words, and I am very bad at recording specific snippets of things for the podcast. And so when we start the podcast or when we end the podcast and we do the like and subscribe bit or leave us a review, I screw it up 5 times. And Ash
every time it's his turn, I'm like, John, we've been doing this for 2.5 years.
And I am not really getting better. In fact, I think that I'm kind of like Charles Barkley. If you ever seen a video of him doing his golf swing, he's just so in his head that even after years of practicing golf and working on his swing, he just can't get out of his head. And he just keeps stuttering on his swing. I cannot for the life of me tell you in one short sentence to please go and give this podcast a review. I can't do it. I don't know why. And Ash makes fun of me every time. It's just something I figured I would bring up, at the beginning of this podcast. Because
John is naturally an over-explainer, I would say.
Yes.
In all things.
Yes.
So I'll be like, hey, John, why didn't you close the window? And then he'll go into this whole saga of and I'm like, I just... was it too hot outside? Just give me 3 words.
I need to justify myself.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Even to strangers or the waitress at the place, why I want eggs medium over medium instead of scrambled. Or the neighbor outside, they were having a cookout and the wind changed and the smoke started coming into our window, and that's why I closed the window. But the wind...
You could have just said, it smells outside. No, just kidding. But you really do that. It's pretty funny.
It's just so funny. Whatever the little snippet is, if it's my turn, you can guarantee that it's the 3rd time recording.
You know what else we can guarantee? We can guarantee that probably because of this entrance to our podcast episode today, there will be negative reviews on iTunes. Just get to the national park stuff.
Oh my God.
Why do you have to talk before everything? It's they haven't learned that there's a fast forward button or a skip ahead or, hey, maybe just don't listen if you don't like us. I don't know. I've never understood that either. I was like, we like to do this podcast because we can tell you things about us that you probably don't know.
Uh-huh.
We can give you a glimpse into our trips and what they look like. And, that's what's fun actually about the episode today, Bryce Canyon. We have been to Bryce Canyon so many times. We have so many stories. We have so many mishaps and funny adventures and stuff in this park. But it's people are just just tell us about the park. We don't want to hear about anything else. No, but that's not what this podcast is for.
I love it. It's so funny. You can tell when somebody on the bad reviews, you can tell when somebody hasn't listened to either a full episode or they're just trolls, because these people, they don't give you any good information about trip planning. It's
these people never hike. They only do easy hikes. We're what, are you kidding me?
Well, it's this is the only avenue in which Ash doesn't give just pure trip planning information.
I'm the YouTube channel is straight trip planning.
Right.
Straight. If you don't want any information about me or my life or what I like or what I do, then go to YouTube. I don't know. It's just so funny.
The website is exactly the same too. You will never see me on the YouTube or on the website because he's
an over-explainer.
I don't give...
He doesn't belong anywhere else.
And I don't give the proper information either.
You make things more fun. So I appreciate your over-explaining. For those of you that don't, just skip ahead to where we start talking about the parks, which is going to be in about 10 seconds here. And just know that, yes, at the end of the podcast episode, whenever he has his little part to ask for a review, we've sat through multiple recordings of that to get it to where it is, to get it to its perfection.
Yes.
So.
And for those of you that enjoy this first little part of the podcast sometimes, this is us inviting you in and, we're just having a little group kumbaya moment.
Yeah.
We're having some fun.
We're breaking the ice. We're letting you into our lives.
Yes.
We love it. Listen, whenever those bad reviews get left, though, and people are like, stop talking about yourselves, there's always like 10 of you that jump in there real quick and leave us a really nice review saying you like it. So we noticed that. We love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll jump in. Okay, fine. Well, it's time. It's time, John. But as I mentioned, we're talking about exploring Bryce Canyon today.
Yes.
And we're Utahns, so we're in the Utah parks a lot. Bryce Canyon, I feel like, gets more time for us probably than any other park in Utah. For whatever reason, it's easy for us to go there. We are often in the area. It's cheaper to stay down there. Yeah. I don't know. We're just we just find ourselves like, oh, we're only 2 hours from Bryce Canyon. Should we just, pop in while we're en route to where we're going?
It's so funny. I was doing some thinking. I was pondering earlier, and I was thinking to myself, all the different times we've been to my favorite Utah park, which is Canyonlands, or your favorite park, which is Capitol Reef. And then how many other times we've been to Bryce? I've been
double.
I've been to Bryce Canyon more than any other national park. And it's not close.
I know.
And I think it is because it's pretty inexpensive to visit. It's closer to where we live. But also it's just every time you go there, it's just so fun and cozy.
Here's what I like about it too. It's a smaller park, and so you don't need a ton of time.
Mm-hmm.
Really, if you only have a day, there's been plenty of times where it's we're driving from southern Utah back up to where we live in northern Utah. And it's if there's just one place to pop into on the drive, where we can spend a half a day or a day and then still get home at a good time.
Right.
It's always Bryce Canyon.
Yeah.
So that's the other nice thing about it too, is it's a smaller park. There's plenty to do. But if you only have a short amount of time, you can do a lot in that span of time.
Yes.
Where you don't feel like you missed out on a ton.
Yeah. It's small enough that you can literally do 1 or 2 hikes and the Scenic Drive, basically, and feel like, I did that park pretty good. Yeah. You don't need to spend 2 to 3 days and cover miles and miles on the trails to feel like you really got usage out of this place.
But if you can, you should. I do recommend a day and a half to 2 days in Bryce Canyon. And then the whole area is really cool because it's along Scenic Highway 12. And so there's just a ton to do along there too. And then you're really not that far from Zion National Park. It's an hour to Zion to the east entrance. And so there's a lot to do along that stretch and then in Zion as well. So
a lot of people try to pair those 2 parks in one trip, basically. Zion and Bryce kind of go together. The mistake I think a lot of people make is staying in the same lodging in Zion and then just driving all the way up to Bryce. I don't think that's really smart.
Yeah, or they'll try to stay in between the two. There's some smaller communities and Airbnbs and stuff kind of in between Zion and Bryce. That's really not a good place to stay either. You're not close enough to get in before the crowds and, it's a lot of driving. And when you do that, also, you're on the quiet side of Zion if you're staying in that stretch, and it takes forever to get to anything else you want to do. So we don't recommend that either. Give Bryce its time. Right. Give it its own separate plan for sure, but just know that you can do a lot in a few hours.
And I think one of the main reasons why you don't want to commute to Bryce is because they mentioned this, like there are not enough parking spots for how many people want to visit this park. And so if you have to commute into Bryce, you're going to give yourself a worse chance of getting a parking spot.
Isn't that the story of all the national parks? If you know one thing about us, it's skip breakfast. Get into the park.
Have a granola bar. Take it with you and eat it on the trail.
Yeah, so that is true in Bryce Canyon as well. They've been saying forever there's one parking spot for every 4 cars that comes in the park. I'm sure those odds are much worse now. Yeah. Because there's way more cars coming into the park. This park has really exploded in popularity. So we do have a Bryce Canyon itinerary on Dirt in My Shoes that will help with a lot of that. Mm-hmm. In fact, it should help with all of it. You should not be getting stuck. I know. I love Bryce Canyon. So let's jump in, but just know this park really does deserve its own time. You're going to want its own plan. It's a totally different vibe than Zion 2, and I think that's cool. If you're coming in here and you're wanting something a little bit different. And just immediately when you get into Bryce Canyon, you can feel even the drive in, as you're driving from Panguitch to Bryce Canyon, you're on Scenic Highway 12 and you go through Red Canyon, which is like a little taste of what Bryce Canyon is. So you'll start seeing those red rocks and those hoodoos as you're driving in. And when we're talking about hoodoos, we're talking about these big rock towers.
Yes.
That you'll see when you're looking at Bryce Canyon, pictures of Bryce Canyon. Those are referred to as hoodoos.
They're so cool. And there's so many of them here. Yeah. It's amazing. The whole landscape. So Bryce Canyon isn't actually a canyon with mountains on both sides. You're driving along the rim of like a cliff. And then as the land falls away from the cliff, it reveals. It's like erosion is carving out or revealing all these hoodoos in the landscape. Yeah. And it's so cool.
Well, and the story behind the hoodoos. So the Native Americans have legends about this place. I mean, it looks otherworldly. It's crazy. I can't imagine stumbling upon this and being like, oh my gosh, what is this?
I'd be like, we got to get out of here. Something lives here.
But that's what their legend basically is that the people have turned to stone.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And so you can see that when you're here. Each hoodoo or each stone pillar kind of has its own face, has its own personality, has its own shape. And so it's really cool to hike among these hoodoos.
And there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
And it really does just cover the entire landscape. And so it's just an amazing thing.
So as you're coming into Bryce Canyon, so as I mentioned, you're on Highway 12, you'll pass by Red Canyon. And that will give you a little taste. That is a more like dog-friendly area if you're wanting to hike with a dog amongst the hoodoos, or if you're wanting to be in like a UTV or something that, something you can't do in the park.
Right.
Then Red Canyon is really popular for that. But then you get in, you turn in towards Bryce Canyon, and you'll go through Bryce Canyon City, which is this really small gateway town. I don't even know. I mean, it is a town. It's kind of more just like a collection of hotels and a few restaurants. But there are people that live there.
And honestly, my whole life, I never even referred to it as Bryce Canyon City. No. Like, it really was just rubies.
Yeah.
Because it's this whole compound that is basically is created to be its own destination town. It's its own gateway town. And it all revolves around rubies.
Yeah, so Ruby's Inn is the main landmark here, and that's where we usually stay. It's fairly inexpensive. During COVID, we got a room there for $15 a night, plus free breakfast for everyone.
It was so crazy.
It was awesome.
They were losing money on that deal.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they were losing money everywhere. Everybody was, but
right, exactly.
So that's usually where we stay. It's nothing fancy. Last time we stayed in the one across the street, the nicer one.
Right, the Best Western Plus.
Yeah. And that one was nice. So anyway, but there's just places to stay. They have like an RV park and campground.
Camper cabins.
Yeah, they've got stuff going. Yeah, we've stayed in the camper cabins before. That was fine. That was actually really nice because it snowed on us.
Right.
So we were glad we weren't in a tent.
Yeah. But they have it all kind of just along it's this road off of Highway 12. You'll hit this point where it's just like, you just have gift shops on both sides, a few hotels on both sides, and then you just enter the park.
Yeah.
Right after that.
And the free park shuttle picks up from Bryce Canyon City, picks up from Ruby's and the Best Western and stuff. So anyway, it's just, they're very much connected.
Yeah.
And it's only, I don't know, a 30-second drive from Bryce Canyon City into actual Bryce Canyon National Park.
Yeah. And if you're coming from Zion, and if you visited Zion, the shuttle system is crazy and you have to wait for forever to get on the shuttle. This is a much more laid back shuttle system.
Yeah, it is.
And you can access it.
And it's not required for most people. It is required if you have a bigger vehicle.
Right.
But, it is a little bit more laid back because you can choose to use it or not, which we also discuss in the Bryce Canyon itinerary. I'll kind of show you when to use it and when not to. But yeah, so you can stay in Bryce Canyon City and just catch the shuttle from there and get into the park and get to most of the main stuff, which is nice. So then we drive into the park and you'll go through the entrance station. Let's start with the amphitheater because this is what everybody wants to come and see.
Yes.
So the amphitheater is the main part of Bryce Canyon where you're going to see all those big hoodoos. And as John mentioned, you're around the rim. And so there's viewpoints along the rim. There's some hikes that you can do that drop you down into the hoodoos and into the, the canyon trails, the amphitheater trails. And so this is really where you're going to want to spend the bulk of your time. This is what you're here to see.
Right. Exactly. And you definitely should hike below the rim if you can.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So coming in, you'll get the main viewpoints that you'll get to first are going to be sunrise and sunset. And
those are my favorites. Anyways, I love those two.
Well, sunrise because it has that really cool tree.
Oh, yes. That's my
barely hanging on to the cliffs.
Okay, so one thing that's super cool, and you'll see this in lots of different places along the rim. So you're standing on the edge of the cliff. That's the rim of the canyon. And as erosion is creating more hoodoos, right? As it's tearing down the land, you have a lot of trees that live right there. It's like if you watch Eurovision, it's that scene when Will Ferrell's dad takes him to the cemetery and he tells him that he has to either sell the house or the boat, and he's selling the house, and Will Ferrell's like, but I live there. And so you have all these trees that are living on the edge here, and erosion is taking the dirt that they're living in away and sucking it down the canyon. And then all you're left with, they call them octopus trees. And so you just have them, they're literally just standing on their roots. It's like they've got little legs.
Yeah.
And they're just walking around the edge of the rim here. And my favorite tree is at Sunrise Point, and it's one of these octopus trees. And it's a limber pine, and it's been there my whole life.
And we have 1,000 pictures of it.
Oh my gosh, every time.
We take pictures of it every time we go.
When I'm 100 years old, I will have been able to chronicle the change that tree has experienced.
We will.
It's going to be awesome.
It will be a really sad day in our house when that tree falls into the canyon.
It will not fall.
Oh, really?
I will.
It's hanging on forever.
I will help it. I'll just bring little puffs of dirt to throw underneath it if I need to. I will not let that tree fall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Sunrise Point is beautiful. You get really nice views of the amphitheater from here.
Yes.
This is also a very popular overlook because it marks the beginning of the Queen's Garden Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And the Queen's Garden Trail takes you down into the hoodoos. You go through some really cool tunnels that are dug out from the hoodoos. So we like it for that.
It's really fun.
And then when you get down to the bottom, you can take a little spur trail to a hoodoo that looks like Queen Victoria. And it totally does. That's what's cool.
Yeah, and my kids had no idea who that was. The only queen that they're aware of is like Queen Amidala. And so they were like looking for the big things on, the big hair, and they didn't see it. But we had to point it out to them and they figured it out. But it does look exactly like Queen Victoria's picture. It's so cool.
Yeah. So like I said, like these hoodoos, they have faces, they have personalities. It's just really fun to explore and to see what you can see.
Yeah.
So the Queen's Garden Trail is the easiest trail that takes you down into the amphitheater and into the hoodoos. And so if you're looking for something simpler, I mean, you're still going to lose and gain some elevation because that's just the nature of Bryce Canyon when you're trying to dip down into the amphitheater.
Right.
But it is the most gradual way down and the most gradual way back out. So that's a really good option.
Which is also really important for year-round use.
Yeah.
Because what's really cool is Bryce Canyon is open year-round, and a lot of people use these trails in the winter. We've used these trails in the winter. And what's nice about it being the most gradual way down is the trails can get really icy. And so if you're going on a more steep trail, it can feel a little bit more treacherous. And so this is the safest way in and out of the canyon.
Yeah. And if you just don't want to climb out of the canyon in the hardest way, I can't really think of a time, maybe a couple of times we've gone out a different way, but usually I'm like, no matter where we are, whichever trail we've done, it's like, let's just go out the Queen's Garden. I would like it to be a little easier coming out. So
that makes sense. But those tunnels that you mentioned really are super cool because especially once you get down into the amphitheater, the landscape is so foreign. And so that every tunnel, it's like you have no idea what's beyond it. Yeah. It's like you're taking a step through some type of a portal into a new place. It's so cool. You never know what's beyond. And it's always hoodoos, but they're always different and the landscape just looks so cool and crazy. I love it.
Yeah, so that's the Queen's Garden Trail. So you'll definitely want to put that one on your radar. What's cool about when you get out of the Queen's Garden Trail, you get back up to Sunrise Point, then you'll hit what is called the Rim Trail. And this trail actually is quite long. I think it's like 13 miles, something like that. And it connects pretty much all of the overlooks that look into the amphitheater. And so there are portions of it that are harder and dirt. Like if you go north from Sunrise Point up to Fairyland Point, that section of the Rim Trail is fairly difficult.
Right.
Which Fairyland Point, we kind of skipped over that one. We'll come back to that.
We do need to talk about that.
We will. But if you go from Sunrise Point along the Rim Trail, you'll hit Sunset Point after a half a mile. And that section of the Rim Trail is paved, it's flat, it has benches where you can enjoy the view. That's the only section of the Rim Trail where you can have a dog. So it's highly used. It's really beautiful, but it's really nice because you can easily connect the two viewpoints. So we do that every time.
Yes.
Pretty much we're there because you want to get over to Sunset Point so that you can see Thor's hammer, which is a very famous hoodoo in Bryce Canyon.
Can you say its actual name?
No.
No, I don't think anybody can actually say Thor's hammer's actual name. There's this clip of like all of the Avengers trying to say, and I don't even know if I can say it right. Mjolnir is, I think, the name of Thor's hammer. And so, I don't know, I just thought I'd point that out.
In Bryce Canyon, it's just called Thor's hammer.
Yes.
They don't even try. Yeah. So you'll see that from Sunset Point, which is really cool. What you can also see from Sunset Point is Wall Street, which is a section of trail that goes between the hoodoos where they're towering above you. And it's like you're in a slot canyon between these hoodoos. So it's really cool.
Towering above you.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge.
I have pictures of us, just like I have pictures of my octopus tree, but I'm always just snapping pictures and they never come out like I want them to because the scale, humans, we are like ants in these hoodoos right here.
Yeah.
And you're descending down into these hoodoos, into the underworld, basically. And everything that you're around, you're in this labyrinth of rocks that are just so big above you, and everything is incredible. And you're just, once you get down there, it's like, where am I?
It is amazing.
Yes.
But from the overlook.
Oh, right. I probably jumped ahead too far.
You're seeing all the ants, right? All the people hiking down into Wall Street. So that's really cool. So definitely stop at the overlook for a minute. And then from there, you can descend into the underworld.
Right.
Along the Navajo Loop Trail. And so that's the other trail that's really popular in Bryce Canyon National Park that takes you down into the amphitheater. And you've got 2 different sides to this trail. So this trail, you go down and you'll go down a couple of switchbacks, and then you'll reach this junction where you can either go right to go down in Wall Street, or you can go left to go to 2 bridges. And both of them are spectacular. I'd say we hike 2 bridges a lot less than we hike Wall Street, just because Wall Street is, as John said, magical and amazing and so cool. And so you can choose 2 bridges takes you closer to Thor's Hammer, which is cool. And that's the side of the Navajo Loop that's open year-round. So if you need to get down into the amphitheater from here, you're going to take the 2 bridges side.
Exactly.
Wall Street closes in the winter because it's not very safe.
And I'm glad that they do.
Yeah.
Because when you get down there, you'll recognize if any of this stuff shifts, I'm a goner.
Yeah.
And that's the process of making the hoodoos we'll talk about in the Fun Facts episode. But it happens because little pieces of it just fall off, and a little piece of a giant hoodoo is bigger than me.
Yeah.
And so
it can be pretty painful, I'm sure. So what's cool, and what a lot of people do, and what we recommend you do if you're not wanting to do a super long hiking trail, but you're wanting to do, like, get the most bang for your buck.
Right.
In the amphitheater portion of Bryce Canyon, is that you connect a portion of the Navajo Loop Trail with the Queen's Garden Trail.
Right.
So it's really nice because when you get down to the bottom of the amphitheater, there are other trails that you can just kind of choose your own adventure down there. And so what we'll do is we'll start at Sunset Point and we'll hike down and we'll go down Wall Street, which is just it's a whole bunch of switchbacks getting lower and lower and lower until you get into the Slot Canyon portion of traveling between the hoodoos, which is really cool. So we'll hike through there, and then you get out of Wall Street, and then instead of continuing the Navajo Loop and going back up, there's a connector trail down there that will connect you to the Queen's Garden Trail. And so then from there, you can hike a little bit further and go find the Queen's Garden Trail and then come up the Queen's Garden Trail. Again, the easier easier out, but you also get to see 2 different trails with one hike, which is perfect.
Very efficient, which is so Ash.
I know. And then you get up the Queen's Garden Trail, and then you're at Sunrise Point, so then you can enjoy that. And then you walk the Rim Trail back to Sunset Point, back to your car. So that's how we like to do it. We have done that trail so many times. There was one year we hiked with our kids, and they were very, very young. I think our youngest, maybe he was like 2, maybe 3.
Old enough to probably care. Old enough to walk.
Too old to carry.
Yeah, right in that transition period.
Yeah, which is a very rough transition, parents. That's it's like, I just want to throw you in the backpack so we can move faster, but he wants to walk and he needs to walk so that he can learn to hike.
Yes, exactly.
But you're just like, it's a slog because they're so slow and they complain a lot. Anyway, we were in that stage.
Yes, it's the period of time where I found it the most efficient way to hike, where you hold their hand and they think it's really fun, but you actually get to move faster. And so you when you have 2 parents and you
swing them in between.
You swing them. You basically just yank your kid along with you. And they think they're jumping, but you realize that you're actually keeping the miles per hour.
Yep, you're pulling them.
Yes.
You're pulling them faster. So we were in that stage, and I remember it was a particular year where it was super sandy along the trail. It hadn't rained for a long time.
Yes.
It was just super sandy. But the sand was like powdered sugar.
Right.
It was not regular sand. It was just, fluffy, breathe it in, get it all over you. Anyway, it was all over the place. And our son, he was whining because he didn't want to hike anymore. And he tripped and he fell face first into the sand. And it was just like a big poof of sand come up, and then he of course, was crying. He got up and he just had it all over his face and his eyes and everywhere.
It was hilarious
it was
and
so funny
and tragic all
and
at the
very
same
sad.
moment.
Yeah.
You know when your kid's embarrassed and upset and you laughing at them just makes it worse?
We couldn't hold it in.
It couldn't be helped. It was great.
We have an amazing picture of him at that age, and he is just covered in red dust, like all over. So our kids have seen a lot of years on that trail, though. We love the Navajo Loop Queen's Garden route. It makes it about 3 miles.
Yeah.
But if you can only do one hike in Bryce Canyon, that's the one to do.
Right. And definitely that direction too just makes it much more enjoyable for me. When you go down Sunset Point and come up Sunrise Point.
Yeah.
For me, I like that.
Well, I mean, again, you're coming out the easier way. You are going down switchbacks. So keep that in mind if you have bad knees.
Right.
The switchbacks are much worse going down Wall Street than they are coming up the Queen's Garden.
But then you get to like Wall Street in order to appreciate it the way that I was talking about, like where you're descending into the unknown. If you're huffing and puffing, it's much more difficult.
You're not having as much fun.
Exactly.
And you're not going down into like the magical corridor that you see in front of you, you know?
Yeah.
You're coming out of it and it's kind of all behind you.
Right.
So, yeah, we do definitely have a preference on the direction.
Yeah. And then at sunrise, as you're walking up Sunrise, you can stop and take a breather while you're enjoying the vast views, which you can see. So It just makes a lot of sense.
This is also one that we really enjoy doing in the winter. So as I mentioned, you got to skip the Wall Street part, but you can go down
2 bridges.
2 bridges, go down that way and connect it to the Queen's Garden on the other side. And you just need yak tracks. You need some type of traction devices on your feet. Snowshoeing, sometimes I find that the snow's really never deep enough. It's usually more ice.
Yeah. I don't think we've really experienced enough snow to need the actual snowshoes.
Yeah, but we love doing this in the winter. It is magical down there with all the snow on the red rocks, and it's quiet and peaceful and a little bit treacherous. I know I whine a lot when I'm trying to go up or down switchbacks on that one.
Ash isn't heavy enough to dig in her yak tracks.
I'm not as sure-footed as John either. So whenever we get in those more precarious situations, there's a lot of nerves that come out.
Yeah, it's watching Ash on ice. It's kind of, if you've ever watched the classic episode of the Magic School Bus when they talk about friction and they get on an ice skating rink and everybody's just skating everywhere and no one can control themselves. That was basically Ash's last experience. It
was rough. It was pretty rough.
It was so funny.
But we do love being here in the winter.
Yes.
Ruby's Inn is decorated for Christmas. They actually have a winter festival in Bryce Canyon or in the Bryce Canyon City in February every year. So that's a really unique experience too. Just know you can still do this hike mostly.
Yeah.
Even in the winter.
And you can rent those yak tracks at Ruby's Inn.
Yeah. Yep, which is what we usually do. So that's a fun time to be there too. Very unique.
Yes.
Very different. So my favorite trail in the park, though, is not the Wall Street to Queen's Garden Trail. So there's another section. When I hit the bottom of the amphitheater, there's another section I like to add on. And so my favorite trail is it's called the Figure 8 because it looks like an 8. The way the trail goes through the hoodoos. So you go down Wall Street, and then when you're down at the bottom, instead of connecting directly to the Queen's Garden, you hit the Peekaboo Loop, which also connects down there at the bottom.
Oh, the bottom of this amphitheater is so cool.
Yeah.
The fact that you can connect so many trails, it's like the perfect ideal for travel, where you have a sign or you have a post and then you have a sign with like an arrow in a direction that says New York, 9,500 miles this way, or Chicago, LA, all those. The bottom of the amphitheater is like this, where you can connect all of these cool different destinations and trails.
And it depends on how far you want to hike. Sometimes we don't add on the Peekaboo Loop. Sometimes we do. It just really depends, because if you add on the Peekaboo Loop and you're doing the whole Figure 8, then it's about 6.5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It is strenuous. The Peekaboo Loop is not easy.
Right.
I feel like every time I get on there, I'm like, oh, this is a lot harder than I remember.
Because you're going up and down all the time.
Yeah, it's a ton of elevation just going up and down. And the thing that's cool about it, I will never forget the feeling that I had the first time I hiked that trail.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just, around every corner was something amazing to look at. You've got like hoodoos that have arches in them.
Mm-hmm.
You've got just giant cliffs kind of coming out up against the trail. You've got hoodoos that are different colors. There's a lot more white in this section of the park, and so it just looks totally different. You still have some tunnels you get to go through. The hoodoos in this area are just massive. They're massive, massive. These are the oldest hoodoos in the amphitheater.
Right.
And so these things are huge, and you just really do feel like a tiny speck as you're hiking through the Peekaboo Loop.
Yeah,
so,
and it's so interesting, because like you've described how unique each hoodoo can be and distinct from each other hoodoo. And then at the same time, you'll also see like walls of hoodoos that are like 50 that are all like exactly the same, but they're all connected. And then, so like you're just seeing so many different things all in one area.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's crazy how you can be, fairly in the same area as Wall Street and the Queen's Garden. You're not that far from those, but it looks totally different. It's a completely different experience. And so that's why I like to do all three trails in one, because it's like each trail has its own personality and you see different things on each one. So if you're a hiker and you want to spend more time down in the amphitheater, I highly, highly recommend doing the whole figure 8 and adding that Peekaboo Loop onto your Navajo Loop and Queen's Garden adventure. Because that's by far my favorite trail in the park. I love that one. It is so amazing. And you don't want to try to get the Peekaboo Loop, at least me personally. It connects to Bryce Point, which is a really high viewpoint along the amphitheater, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But those are like the switchbacks from hell coming out on that one. So I don't like to access the Peekaboo Loop from there. I like to access it from one of the other easier trails in the amphitheater.
Right.
And go around the loop that way and then come back out on the easiest trail, which is the Queen's Garden. So
right. Well, that's kind of the magic of mixing and matching what you want this experience to be, because if you go down, if you start at Bryce Point, you have to end at Bryce Point. But if you start at like sunrise or sunset, you can do all of it and then come out of the other one and then connect it through the rim trail.
Yeah.
And still end up back at your car seeing all new things all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's just
it's
so
a choose your own adventure. And here's the thing. If you don't want to hike it, if you're not a hiker, you can take a horseback riding tour. They do take horseback riding tours along the Peekaboo Loop even.
Right.
So you can get down in there even on a horse if you don't want to hike. So no excuses not to get down into this amphitheater. But the way you're probably going to want to do that is either through sunrise or sunset point. That's going to make the most sense.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the two big viewpoints. I didn't realize those were your favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, they're amazing.
They're so good.
But I have a different favorite. So if you go out from this area and you drive even further into Bryce Canyon, then you'll hit two more main viewpoints of the amphitheater. So first, you'll get to Inspiration Point.
Right, which is so good.
It's really cool. It's 3 different viewpoints, and you can just work your way higher along the rim to get to those higher viewpoints if you want to do that, or you can just stay down low. That's fine too. So that one's really pretty. And then the other one that you're not going to want to miss is Bryce Point.
Right.
And Bryce Point is my favorite. And I think it's because, so Bryce Point, you feel a little bit more disconnected, I would say, from the hoodoos. They're not as close to you, but it gives you just that grand amphitheater view from like if you were a bird.
Yeah.
It's the bird's eye view. And everything just looks so unfathomable. I mean, you're standing up there and you're just like, how is this here?
Yeah, it's so crazy. But the bird's eye view, so the reason I like sunrise and sunset is because I like being close to the hoodoos.
Yeah, and when you're at those ones, you're kind of looking straight out at the hoodoos, right?
Yeah, you're face to face with the hoodoos. But when you're at Bryce Point looking down, you're seeing the whole expanse. You're seeing the whole story. You're seeing everything from like the newest hoodoos to the oldest hoodoos, the biggest and the youngest, all different colors. The designs that they make from space, which is Bryce Point. The design,
I was like, can you see it from space?
I think I jumped straight to space. That was a little far. But the design that they make, it's just kind of amazing to see erosion from this scale.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you're seeing so many intricate details. It's like watching a master weaver or somebody do something, and it's just, wow, I can't believe their art is so spectacular.
Yeah. How is this even possible?
Yeah.
That's how I feel at Bryce Point. So that one's my favorite because it's just like every time I stand there, I'm like, oh, sheesh. That's crazy. It's crazy that this is even here.
And from Bryce Point, you can see some other landforms in the area that are part of the whole Bryce Canyon compound, like the sinking ship.
Yeah, you can see very far out here. And you're at such a high elevation in Bryce Canyon. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
There's some higher elevation areas that you'll want to go to, but the air is really thin out here. Mm-hmm. And so if you're there on a clear day, I mean, from Bryce Point, you're seeing just miles upon miles upon miles.
Right.
Beyond the hoodoos as well. So I love that one. That one's my favorite, but I can see why you would like the ones that are maybe a little bit closer to the hoodoos. So
yeah.
Go see them all and just decide which one you like the best.
Yeah.
Or just love them all because they're all so cool.
Right.
The other one that's kind of right here by Bryce Point is the Pariah viewpoint. Pariah view is not very popular at all.
No.
You don't get like those big expansive hoodoo views, but this is one of the only places in the park where you can get a good sunset pic because of the way the amphitheater is oriented. You can get sunset on the hoodoos from Pariah Point. So we do usually go out there at night.
Which is confusing because of the names of Sunrise and Sunset Point. And they're not even really that far away. And
they both face the same direction pretty much.
They were trying to be really cool when they named it.
Yeah.
Sunrise, Sunset.
It is a little misleading though. Bryce Canyon in general is a sunrise park.
Right.
If you want good photos.
Yeah, exactly.
That's out there as well. That really rounds out that main amphitheater area.
And we did want to return to Fairyland.
Yes.
So that's not part of this main section here because from like Bryce circling around to Sunrise and the whole amphitheater, there's another section far to the far north, which we absolutely love, which is the Fairyland Point area.
Fairyland Point is the newer hoodoos. These are the ones that are still forming.
Right.
And so they're not as dramatic as the main amphitheater views. When you get out there, you will see hoodoos, but they definitely, you can tell they're smaller. You can tell that they're just not as deep, not as formed. Mm-hmm. So what I love, Fairyland Point is really quiet. Generally, it's a pretty quiet area of the park.
Mm-hmm.
But I mentioned that the Figure 8 trail, so that one is my very favorite trail in the park.
Right.
But from Fairyland Point, you can do the Fairyland Trail, which is another long trail like the Figure 8 that dips down into the hoodoos.
Mm-hmm.
But it dips down into this area of the hoodoos, which again is not quite as dramatic. But I will say, I do think that the Fairyland Trail is probably the most underrated, magical, peaceful trail in Bryce Canyon.
Oh, I love it. It's so great.
It's amazing.
Well, what's cool, so it's in a lot of the sections of it, you'll get more, it's like you're walking through colorful badlands.
Yeah.
In some sections of it. Because you are. And you're standing on top of future hoodoos that will be eroded out, that nature will carve out of these really deep and red-yellow badlands. But one of my favorite things about it is this is one of the best places to see bristlecone pines.
Yep, which is John's favorite tree.
Yes.
The oldest organism on the planet.
Yes. It's so good.
It's crazy.
Oldest and best.
Yeah. So these ones are not the oldest.
Yeah.
We'll say.
They're not.
They actually look like trees.
Yes.
Which, when you get into those older bristlecone forests, you're kind of like, nah, not so much a tree as a,
fossil.
A mangled bush.
Right. It's true.
Or a bark or a leafless stick.
Yeah. Really selling it, Ash.
I know. I just remember the first time we did the Fairyland Loop, and John was like, "These are all bristle cones," and I was like, "Really? I feel like I've never seen like a regular one." Because we've been to Great Basin, which has the really old ones.
And there's different subspecies of bristlecone pines.
Yeah, and they didn't look the same at all.
Yeah,
so.
and especially when you have a younger bristlecone pine, the branches kind of look like foxtails, where they have just... That's the only way I can really describe their branches and the needles that come off of them. But they look really different from some of the other like ponderosas and different kinds. You have to pay attention to the needles though. But these younger trees, you're seeing a brand new generation of the oldest trees on the planet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's really cool. And just imagine, 50,000 years from now, when when the whole surface has gone down, 100 feet right here on the Fairyland Loop and revealed all of these big hoodoos, and then you'll have a crazy bristlecone forest surrounding them.
That will be cool.
It'll be really cool.
I wish I could see that.
I wish
see
I'd
be here.
It's right in my mind.
Also, the last time we did the Fairyland Loop, we started later in the day, which a lot of times we don't do this. We started around like 3 o'clock-ish, I want to say, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And we were hiking during golden hour. Like, we got off the trail as the sun was going down, and that was unreal.
Yeah.
Like, there was nobody out there. It was so quiet. It was so peaceful. And then the golden hour light was just making those hoodoos just pop. It was amazing.
It's so good.
And we were like out there by ourselves. We're like, this is seriously the coolest experience I've ever had here. So that's a really great trail. I have nothing bad to say about that trail. I would just say, if you're a first-time visitor to Bryce Canyon and you only have time for one longer trail, I would choose the figure 8 over Fairyland, just because the figure 8 takes you so deep into the big hoodoos that you're there to see.
Right.
So
the Fairyland is like a second trip type of trail.
Yeah, when you go back, do the Fairyland, because you won't be disappointed. But
yeah. I do have a complaint against that trail, though.
Do you?
I do, and it's a rare complaint because I love that trail.
Okay.
But my complaint has to do with a choose your poison type of situation.
Okay.
Because depending on where you park, like if you park at the Sunrise area or kind of near the Bryce Canyon Lodge and you start the trail, then you have to end by hiking miles and miles along the rim trail, which is really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And you're already tired by that point. And you just want to be done.
Well, yeah. Okay. So I don't like saving the boring part for the end.
Yeah.
Because that's when I feel really sad. It's like in the Grand Canyon when you're coming out on the Bright Angel and you're like, this is the most boring trail ever and I just want to be done. And why am I still doing switchbacks? It's kind of that way for me. So yeah, I prefer to park at Fairyland and get the rim trail part of it out of the way.
Yeah.
First, and then dip down into the canyon and do the loop. And so that way, as you're getting really tired and you're coming out of the canyon, you know that you're almost done.
Right.
But you're like still enjoying the hoodoos and stuff. So
Exactly.
That's what I would do.
I think that makes sense.
I'm very particular about that, actually. I feel like, especially if it's going to be a repeat trail that I've already done. And I'm like, nah, that part's kind of boring. Let's get that over with first.
Well, it's kind of like you're a big fan of like the Atomic Habits book. And so it's like creating systems around like
knowing my personality.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like not wanting to be a super grump as I'm finishing up my hike.
Exactly. And so you plan for what you'll be grumpy about at the end of your trail. And so if you park at Fairyland Point, do the rim trail first, and then you go down into the canyon. And when you're hiking out, I'm going to be done, but I can enjoy this.
Yeah. The view is still really cool.
Exactly.
And I'm still like in the hoodoos,
right.
So it's still like, oh, I have things to be excited about.
Yes.
I know. I'm trying to decide how I'm going to hike the Grand Canyon next because I'm like, I do not want to come out on the Bright Angel Trail. John, I did not let him hike with me on that portion because I was so grumpy. So, side note, I do get...
It was so funny.
Like that.
At first, she didn't want me to hike behind her because she felt like I was rushing her. And then she didn't even want me to be. And then I'm hiking in front of her. And she doesn't want me to even, because I kept like stopping and waiting for her. She's like, just keep going.
I know. See, he got up to the top and had to wait for me for like an hour and a half. And I was so grumpy. So anyway.
I'm just sitting up there like a kid, with his ice cream cone, just like kicking his legs over the edge of the cliff. Like, hi, Ash, how you doing?
Listen.
Don't talk to me for 10 minutes.
I know. I can't breathe and I'm super grumpy. You have to take things like that into consideration. I feel like, especially, also, if you have kids, like to know that, right? And to recognize, hey, they're not going to do so well on this portion of the trail, or they're probably, this is going to be not great. And having things that you can put systems in place. You can set it up in a way that it's like, this feels better for everybody.
Yes.
That's what my itineraries do too. I do pay attention to that.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, we need a system so that not everybody is grumpy. And when I say everybody, I mean me. So
one of my favorite systems that we put in place while we were traveling around and visiting all the national parks during the summer in our trailer once was I had a couple bottles of water that were specific for my use. And it wasn't drinking water. And I also, in conjunction with those couples of bottles of water, had 2 tiny little water pistols that I would fill up with water, and then I would cool my family down so that they would stop being grumpy at me while I'm pointing out the beautiful flowers or the beautiful rocks and different things like that. It was a great system.
You know what? It was. And we still do that, actually. We still hike with water guns when it's hot. This would be a good park to do that at.
Yes.
Where I get grumpy when he does that is that I'm carrying literally like 8 liters of drinking water for everybody. And then John just has his like bottles specifically for the water guns. That's what he's carrying.
Listen, it's a system that's in place for a purpose. It doesn't seem logical.
That does help, though. If you're... Utah gets really, really hot in the summer, especially these Utah parks down in the southern part of the state. Hiking with water guns, like we just get dollar water guns.
Yeah, dollar store water guns.
They're really small. And then we carry water specifically for them. But then as we hike, John will shoot us with the water guns. It changes everything.
It's like training your dog not to bark, and you like spray him in the face when he's barking. It's like, if one of my kids starts being grumpy, right in the face.
It helps. It does help. So that's another,
And it makes me feel better, too.
Yeah. Oh,
Ash, your makeup is running. Well, stop spraying me in the face.
It does help. It does feel good. So, okay. So that really does round out the amphitheater stuff to do. Mm-hmm. And then from there, there's really only 2 other sections that you're going to want to spend some time in. So the first is actually, you go out of Bryce Canyon City and you stay on Highway 12 and you go down the hill. Mm-hmm. And as you're going down that hill, when you get to the bottom, you'll find the Mossy Cave Trail.
Right.
And that's a really popular, it never used to be popular.
No.
Now it's like super popular.
When COVID hit and like they closed a bunch of the national parks, this was one of the only places accessible. And then the national...
Because it's outside of the entrance station.
Yes.
And so it's like everybody was going to Mossy Cave. And then and then they started, I don't know, it got really popular on Instagram. Because what it is you have these hoodoos. And again, you're in the newer part of the hoodoos. So they're not huge hoodoos or anything, but they're cool. And you're hiking among these red rocks and these hoodoos, and then there's an irrigation canal that comes down that was built by the Mormon pioneers. I mean, it's a really old canal system.
Right.
But it comes down through this area, and then there's a waterfall off this canal.
It's like the only waterfall in the park.
Yeah, and so you get the waterfall with the hoodoos. Pretty cool.
It's really pretty.
I'm not even sure how many people actually go over to Mossy Cave. I think most people just go for the waterfall.
Well, and Mossy Cave, really isn't like a cave that you can walk into.
No, it's more like a bluff. It's more like a cavern, if you will, a little divot in
it's like
the cliff. But it's like a seep spring. Like the water comes through, and water in the desert, again, is pretty hard to come by. And so there's a lot of plants growing in here because of this water seeping through the rocks here.
Yeah.
So it is pretty cool. And actually, Mossy Cave is really cool in the winter because there's big icicle stalactites.
Yeah.
That you can see. But
Ice fall, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, but a lot of people just like totally bypass Mossy Cave and just go to the waterfall and play in the water. So
yeah, I can see a lot of people being like, why is that called Mossy Cave?
Yeah. So just so you know, there is an actual cave like formation back in there.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's where that trail is. And then that's also, if you go a little bit further along Highway 12, you'll hit John's.
Let's get tropical.
John's favorite gateway town, which is Tropic.
Oh my gosh.
Every time we come down the hill and into Tropic, he yells that.
Let's get tropical. It's so fun. It's from a Will Ferrell movie, Semi-Pro. And it's just the best. I absolutely love that movie. And I love that that's like what they always yell. Let's get tropical. It's so much fun. My kids were really grumpy this last time we were heading there, and I said that like 90 times. I did not care that they didn't like when I said it, and I just kept saying it.
Persistence pays off.
Exactly. My philosophy is the more you say an unfunny joke, the funnier it becomes.
That is true. That is definitely John's philosophy.
Exactly. I'm going to keep telling you this until you think it's funny.
We usually go into Tropic to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we don't love the food options up in Bryce Canyon City.
Yeah.
Not great. The Bryce Canyon Lodge in the park is okay. So it's hit and miss. Sometimes, usually it's okay.
I like eating breakfast there.
Yeah.
And but I like my dinners in Tropic.
Yeah. So we'll usually drive down to Tropic for dinner. We like the pizza place, or that whole community actually is building up a lot more.
They've got a new barbecue place that's so good. None of these places are, I say new, but it's been a few years for sure.
New for us, yeah, because we're like, why is this here? So we'll usually drive into Tropic for food. That's our tip on that. They have better food. You can stay down in Tropic too. That's a fine location for visiting Bryce Canyon. You're just a few minutes from the park.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to stay up at Ruby's or whatever, Tropic has more like Airbnb options and like cute little cabins and stuff.
It's not like staying in Panguitch, which you have to.
Yeah, I wouldn't stay in Panguitch. A lot of people do. That's too far out, I think. So I would do Bryce Canyon City or Tropic or stay in the park.
Yeah.
Because the park has a lodge and a couple campgrounds too. So
yeah,
lots of options just right there close, which is why there's no need to go further out, I don't think.
Yep.
But, so that's the other section of Bryce Canyon. And then the last section is the Scenic Drive portion of Bryce Canyon, which is actually the biggest part of Bryce Canyon. But it's not, it kind of takes you away from those main hoodoo views. And so a lot of people just don't even come down here or don't know what's down here.
Yeah. The density of the hoodoos outside of the section that we just spent most of the time on is vastly different.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see like maybe a few here and there. Like if you go out to like, you're driving the Scenic Drive. My favorite stop, so you have Natural Bridge, which is a giant arch in some hoodoos.
In the sandstone.
Super cool.
It's so pretty.
And then if you go out to like Piracy Point,
which is a cool name, by the way.
Yeah, but you'll see some hoodoo formations that look a little funky from there.
Right.
But otherwise, you're not really seeing hoodoos. You're more seeing Bryce Canyon's high country. You're seeing the high desert.
And you are gaining elevation.
Yeah.
As you go.
This is the highest part of the park, which is crazy because when you get to the end of the Scenic Drive and you're at Rainbow Point and Yovimpa Point, so you get to the end and it's just one big parking lot for both of those spots. You're at 9,100 feet above sea level.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. And it's not like you're going to like notice because you're not in the mountains.
Right?
Really. It's like.
You feel like if you're at 9,000 feet above sea level, you should be like, glaciers all around you, snow-capped peaks. But here you are, and you look like you're still in the Utah desert, because you are.
Yeah.
But also, it's just like, it boggles the mind, and we're going to cover this in the Fun Facts episode. This is the top of the Grand Staircase.
Yeah, and that's what's cool, because like when you get out to Yovimpa Point and you're looking outward, and like I said, the air is thin out here, like you have really good visibility most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can see so many steps of the Grand Staircase as they fan out from where you're standing.
Yes.
So you're at the top, and you can see all the way to the Kaibab Plateau, which is where the north rim of the Grand Canyon is.
Right.
You can see that far from Yovimpa Point.
And I love it. And so even though we've kind of said, the density of the hoodoos goes away, you're seeing different things that are still totally worth your time. And it's absolutely gorgeous. You're still seeing hoodoos, but you can also take a couple of hikes here kind of along the rim. You can enjoy...
The bristle cone loop is there, so you can see more bristle cones.
Exactly.
This is also one of our favorite places. That hike in particular brings us to seeing my favorite tree and really paying attention to my favorite tree, which is the ponderosa pine.
Exactly.
Why do I love the ponderosa pine, John?
Because it smells like butterscotch.
It smells like butterscotch. How cool is that? So the ponderosa pines, they have a really distinct bark pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like...
It's kind of red.
Yeah, and it's almost like pieces of like diamond-shaped pieces of bark layered around the tree.
Yep, really long, bushy pine needles.
Yeah, and in between those pieces of bark that are on the tree, if you stick your nose in there and sniff, you might smell butterscotch.
Yes, and it happens most of the time when there's been like sun on the tree, kind of warming up the bark. It's kind of like, I don't know.
So you sniff the sunny side of the tree.
Yes, exactly.
And watch for spider webs and ants and stuff like that. But
I feel like that should be like on an HR poster. Sniff the sunny side of the tree.
You know what one of my favorite things about this is, since we've started talking about Bryce Canyon more and doing the podcast and stuff, you can find ponderosa pines in other parks too.
Right.
But Bryce Canyon is kind of where it all started for us, where we realized they smell like butterscotch. And so now it's like we associate Bryce Canyon with these ponderosa pines. But anyway, people send me pictures through my email inbox of them sniffing the trees.
The whole family.
Yeah. It's the best thing ever. I love all of you guys who send me this. And they'll be like, this was my son's favorite thing about our entire trip, was like sniffing the ponderosas. Like, oh my gosh, you are my people.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy to hear that.
And we've had an experience where we could actually trace, because we started the trend on a trail once, and we could trace it through all the different hikers on a trail. We started sniffing a tree. Someone else asked us, what are you guys doing?
Why are you sniffing trees?
And then they started sniffing the trees. And then it just like, it's like a game of telephone. Eventually, people have no idea why they're sniffing the tree, but they're doing it because other people told them to. And so it's just so funny to see this happening. And we want as many people as we can to smell the sunny side of the ponderosa pines.
We are 1,000% tree sniffers.
Yes.
So also, if you want to be my immediate best friend, and we're in a national park and I see you sniffing trees, like I won't be able to contain myself.
She'll hug you.
Hugs all around. I know. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're doing that. So anyway, keep your tree sniffing stories and pictures coming.
Yes.
Because I love that. But just know, Bryce Canyon is a really great park for tree sniffing. There's a lot of ponderosa pines here.
What a weird thing to say.
So I know.
I love it.
You know, just if you need to look up a picture of the bark before you go, that would be helpful.
Right. It's not fun to smell non-good smelling trees.
And then you just look dumb. I mean,
right. And sometimes,
how do you explain that away?
And I've had experiences getting like spider webs on my nose and not getting the butterscotch. And that's not fun.
That's not fun. So we do that on the Bristle Cone Loop along the Scenic Drive. You will find ponderosas along the Navajo Loop and Queen's Garden Trail too. Definitely some tree sniffing happening there. What we like about the bristlecone loop is there's like rarely ever very many people on that one, so you don't look as weird. Like when you do it on the Queen's Garden, there's a lot of people around you looking at you like you're very, very strange.
And yet you should still do it unabashedly.
So anyway, but that's the Scenic Drive. I mean, the Scenic Drive, again, like you're just kind of driving out there. You're enjoying the higher country of Bryce Canyon. You're stopping, at whatever viewpoints kind of look interesting to you.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, Natural Bridge is my favorite. I like that one.
Right.
We'll always stop at Rainbow Point and Yovempa and stuff to do the other stuff there. And then we always drive all the way out to the end of the road first and do this stuff there and then hit the viewpoints on the way back so that you're not making a million left turns trying to get to all these viewpoints.
Right.
But that's the Scenic Drive.
Yeah.
And it's pretty straightforward. In the winter, that's the part of the park that will close first. So they usually do try to keep the amphitheater section open as much as they can, even during big storms. But the Scenic Drive is much more seasonal in that way. So just keep that in mind if you're going during the off season, which Bryce Canyon has a pretty strong off season, but it's crazy to me how many people are in this park all year round now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's still buses taking people here in the wintertime.
Yeah, so you can still get out to a lot of it. But yeah, you're mainly there for the amphitheater. And then if you want to add the Scenic Drive, if you have some extra time, if you want to go down to Mossy Cave, if you have some extra time, if you're in the area for longer, you can continue along Highway 12.
There's so many good things.
Yeah. Kodachrome is great. We love Calf Creek Falls. That's all kind of ish right in that area. And then if you continue along the Scenic Drive, then you'll get up to Capitol Reef. So there's a lot of cool stuff along that way. But Bryce Canyon, like we said, I mean, it is a destination in and of itself. We go there all the time without doing anything else but Bryce Canyon. And hiking the hoodoos is always a different experience, no matter when you're there.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times you've done it.
The hoodoos they pop different.
Yeah.
Depending on the lighting, depending on, where you decide to stop and look up from your hike, it's just every time you visit, it's different. It's like water. A river is never the same. Bryce Canyon is never the same.
Yeah. And it's a choose your own adventure park. So as much hiking as you want to do, as much you can stick to the viewpoints, you can stick to the rim trail, you can go down in the amphitheater, you can do a short hike in the amphitheater, you can do a longer one. That's what makes it so cool. And so that's why I say, even if you only have a couple of hours and you just have time to see the viewpoints around the amphitheater and maybe do a short hike, that's great. If you have time to do more, do more. You're going to feel the magic of the park regardless of how much time you're able to spend there.
Yeah.
So we want to hear from you, and we're interested to know which amphitheater view you're most excited to see.
Right.
So are you wanting to be down closer to the hoodoos from Sunrise Point or Sunset Point?
Right.
Do those ones sound more fun?
Where they're up in your face.
Yeah. Or are you Team Ash? Do you want to go up to Bryce Point so you can get that bird's eye view?
Yeah.
We'll post pictures of the different viewpoints on the Dirt in My Shoes Facebook and Instagram pages. And we'd love for you to chime in on which viewpoint you are most excited to see in Bryce Canyon.
And
take 3.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you would give the Exploring the National Parks podcast a 5-star review. It's great for you. It's great for us. It's great for the podcast. And it helps other people know that this is a great podcast to listen to if they like trip planning and like exploring the national parks.
And maybe eventually, if we get enough reviews, John won't have to keep asking in such a painful way. So we appreciate those reviews. Thank you.
And here's your reminder to go out and get some dirt in your shoes.
And smell the trees.